Usually it's all quiet on the Western Front, but now not today. We had to go back at it. And we got some fire ready for you guys out there. Deshaun Watson is back in the mix. The Browns, of course, have their press conference, a press release talking about Deshaun Watson being added to the active roster. We'll go over that and what that means for the team, and then we'll kind of break it down like this. We'll go by the receiver group as well in the second segment. We'll talk about what it means for those guys, Amari Cooper, Anthony Schwartz, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and getting Deshaun Watson back. How does that affect them on the field? Third segment, we'll get into the tight end position room. We'll talk about the tight ends. We'll talk about whether or not they can come out and hit the ground running. David Njoku had a nice little rapport building with Jacoby Brissett. Can he still have that same type of energy with Deshaun Watson? And then also in that segment, we will definitely talk about the running back position. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. Obviously, they will be running the ball some, but will Deshaun Watson be able to integrate those guys into the passing game? And will that be a big focal part of what Kevin Stefanski wants to do moving forward? All of these things are on the table. We get ready for one of the more exciting weeks in the Cleveland Browns season this week, going against the Houston Texans. A lot of storylines, and if you want the storylines, we'll give them to you all here on the next Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Of course, 92.3 The Fan's Barbershop, Saturday mornings. Obviously, other opportunities to catch Garrett Bush on 92.3 The Fan throughout the week. Pre-game, post-game coverage for your Buckeyes, your Browns, your Cavaliers, and when the time comes, the Cleveland Guardians. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns now on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. Make sure you have notifications on. Do us a favor, as you guys all know so well in the chat here. Throw a like on each episode for us, guys. Just helps with some simple promotion for the show. Helps the show get out a little bit more. You guys have all been grateful, so great about that, and we are certainly grateful to you for that. Yes, USA is playing today, right now, currently up 1-0. But look, man, it's a big week. And Garrett said, look, one of the most anticipated weeks in Cleveland Browns this season. This can conceivably be one of the most anticipated weeks in Cleveland Browns history. Browns Tuesday, as they do every Tuesday, we get a nice little packet of where things are. They send a depth chart. You usually never see much on the depth chart. But guess what? There is a big change, a big noticeable change, as number 4, Deshaun Watson, has now been entrenched, reinstated. He will be the difference maker for a long time here in Cleveland in one Deshaun Watson. Awkward enough, first trip, first game will be in Houston. We're going to get into that news of the today. It just, look, it's not where we're at, man. We did plenty of coverage on this and all of that. That stuff's put to bed. Don't want to talk about it. It's not really a part of anything right now. It's about a number 4 taking the field here for your Cleveland Browns. We're going to get into this today. We're going to talk a little bit how it's going to work with the wide receiver room, the tight end room, the running backs. Is it going to be a part of the passing game? Is it not going to be part of the passing game? So, we're going to get into all that, but gee, it's been long anticipated. It feels like it's been forever and a day since the Browns on St. Patrick's Day initially made the move to bring in Deshaun Watson. Before we got the initial news that it was a 6-game suspension, then we got the news after that it was going to be an 11-game suspension. Your 4-7 Cleveland Browns, we're not sure exactly how this is going to work out in the long run, but he is here. It is time. The Browns are now going to get to see their high-priced investment, quarterback Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, for a lot of people, this is kind of crazy. If you look at it through history and the context of quarterback play, We've had a couple number 1 overall picks at quarterback. We have Tim Couch. We have Baker Mayfield. We have some Brandon Whedon in the mix there. You also have guys like, one Johnny Manziel. So there's been a lot of quarterbacks who have generated a level of buzz for one reason or another. This move right here by the Cleveland Browns to go out and get a quarterback like Deshaun Watson generated some buzz as well, some negative, some positive. But I will say, Deshaun Watson has done all that he's been asked of from the NFL and the front office of the Cleveland Browns. And if he hadn't done those things, he probably wouldn't be reinstated. But now he is. And it gets an opportunity to go do something that we've been waiting for a long time, is watch this guy play quarterback. And by all intents and purposes, if he's anywhere what he was when he left the field, he's going to be one of the more exciting players that we've ever had in the history of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, you talk about the emotion and riding high. You got a victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you can't but help think that victory kind of spawns on some energy and kicks up that energy in the locker room of those guys who really feel that, hey, man, this is for a lot of guys like Jadeveon Clowney, for a lot of guys like Myles Garrett, for a lot of guys on those defense and offense, they're super excited to play with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson because it makes their jobs easier. It makes them be able to go out and play with a little more reckless abandon. It gives Joe Woods a little more opportunity to say, hey, I got a quarterback. I'm not too scared about missing assignments, or I'm not too scared about playing conservatively because we got a bona fide guy that can bring us back from some scores, and a guy that can, play with the league, and a guy who can play from behind. So don't get it twisted. Everybody is super excited. This is the best coach. This is the best player Kevin Stefanski's had the ability to coach at quarterback. This is the best quarterback Nick Chubb has been able to play with. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt has been able to run the ball with. And it's been the best quarterback that those guys up front, especially Joe Bitonio, have pass protect and blocked for. So this is going to be a very exciting thing. It's going to be a hostile environment in Houston. Make no bones about it. There will be hostility. And, I'll go back to what Joe Bitonio said. He said, this is going to be part of what we go through every single game. This is part of what it is for the foreseeable future. So, for those guys in the locker room, they just have to come together and galvanize around each other and realize that there's going to be no friendly cheers when you go on the road. And it might be some not so friendly cheers even at home. So these are all things you got to consider. But what I'm most excited about is actually seeing his skill set on display, especially with some of the pieces and parts we have right now, Jeff.
Look, there's no reason you can be anything more than excited to see where this is going to go for this team. This is a major, major investment. This is the biggest investment, certainly, that this front office has made. When you go all in, and I'm sure there's some of us, and taking the off-field stuff out of the equation, looking at the Denver Broncos right now and going, what if maybe it don't work? Like, what happens then? That's certainly something that you were going to be nervous about. You were going to be shaky about. There's no question about this. But for this coach staff, for this general manager, this absolutely has to work. This doesn't work, everybody gone. Everybody is gone. And then you're going to be at the point where some of your top players are going to say, look, if we're taking it down to the bare bones, once again, I'm not doing this anymore. For Nick, who is now signed here long-term, Myles, who is now signed here long-term, they have more than shown their commitment to this organization. This is huge. And look, there's going to be some rust on Sunday. I'm sure there is. I'd be stunned if there wasn't. You're playing the Houston Texans. That's a week where maybe a little rust ain't going to matter. Browns, I think at this point early, are a 7-point favor. I only figure that number to rise as the week goes on. But we're going to go a little deeper here. The Browns receivers, we're going to get into that. The wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs. How is this all going to gel? How is this all going to mesh? As the Browns now are bringing in someone that they really were pleased with Jacoby Brissett's play, but 64 completion percentage, all this stuff. That's the floor. This should be like the worst that Deshaun Watson plays, which was the best that Jacoby Brissett played. I'm going to kick it on, keep it going here. Your latest Locked On Browns, Garrett Bush, Jeff Lloyd, along for the ride. Now, a word from Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electronic vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions do apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G Bush in the building. Follow me at GBush91. Follow Jeff at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Make sure you guys tap in with us. Tap in us when we go 2-minute warning. Really great episode last week. We got an opportunity to get that dub. And it was an overtime game. We were on with you guys overtime. Adam the Bull, as always, I don't know how he gets it done, but his cable is a little bit further than ours. We were able to talk about some of the stuff that was going on with the Buccaneers and the Browns to kind of celebrate that win. And if you would have subscribed, hit the notification bell, you would have known right when we go on. So continue to do that. Make sure you are as well. Right now, we got 55 people live in the chat. Don't forget, your questions, as always, we will touch down on some of your questions if we have a couple in the third and last segment. So get those submitted in the chat. We will definitely shout those out and answer those questions at the end of the third segment. And also, we'll continue to try to do this thing live, give some interaction here. And don't forget, this thing's going to ramp up. I've been drinking a Kool-Aid. For every Browns victory that this thing hits, we at 1 now. Deshaun Watson comes back against the Texans, that's 2. So now we're on that 2-game winning streak, man. So, we trying to do as much as we can for the 6-0. We trying to see what it's going to do. So I'm pouring out the Kool-Aid for everybody. I got the Kool-Aid ready to go. If you want a tall glass of it, you could wait till after the Texans game, but I got a picture for everybody in Cleveland to join that bandwagon on those wins. Jeff, let's get to what we're talking about with these receivers, man. One thing that you're going to see, and we've always thought about it like this, Deshaun Watson is going to elevate the play of your receivers, right? We talked about what he's able to do as far as fitting footballs in tight windows. We talked about his arm strength, throws one of the best deep balls in the game. When you add what he's done, what he's traditionally done, to what we've seen some players come around. Listen, we made fun of Anthony Schwartz. We talked about him all season. I think it's time you could give Anthony Schwartz a shout out to the young man. I know how it is out here. You're trying to cut your teeth into the league. You're getting back on the field, because I thought it was going to be a wrap for him. We hadn't seen. I wasn't expecting to see Anthony Schwartz until sometime next year. Got back on the field, got the touchdown on the reverse, caught a ball, moved the sticks for a first down. It's nothing great. It's nothing over I'm not going to go die and go crazy over it. But it's some positive steps for a young player trying to find his footing in the league. You look at Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I think has really blossomed this year. Outside chance of getting 1,000 yards. You look at David Njoku, who we'll talk about next segment, the tight end room, who could catch the football too. And then you got Amari Cooper, who I think really is a number one receiver. All of these people that we mentioning are going to be theoretically better with a guy like Deshaun Watson, especially what he brings to the table with his legs and extending plays. And he's just not going to come up here and extend plays to kind of run. He's going to extend plays to throw the ball downfield and get big chunk plays. Jeff, what are you expecting to see from these relationships week 1 against the Houston Texans?
Well, first things first, I do just want to go, just make one comment on Anthony Schwartz. The hardest thing to do as a young player in the NFL is to get yourself out of the doghouse. It's just so difficult to do. And the fact that Anthony did it through his work, of all things, being physical and covering as a gunner on the punt team, I mean, and you start to work your way back in the good graces with the team with that. That's what led to him playing Sunday, and Michael Woods and Demetric Felton not playing Sunday. Obviously, Anthony got an opportunity. And look, when you're that down Any little bit helps. And for a guy like, Anthony Schwartz, certainly a huge, huge thing. And his accomplishments could certainly go up here with a quarterback who, obviously throws more vertical. You've got Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is about 200 and change away from 1,000 yards. Was going to get that 1,000 yards either way. We all know that. But you got a 6-game stretch here now to see, if this is the guy you think is truly the perfect number one to pair with Deshaun Watson. When you get to see a player day in, day out, week in, week out, you learn more about the players. Saying it becomes a not taking an opinion on a player as opposed to maybe making an opinion on a player. Amari Cooper's route running, for those who have lauded it over the years, absolutely. He's a special, special guy. He's almost got feet like a soccer player. He is fantastic with his footwork. No missteps, no wasted steps. He's not looking to, end up as a GIF on social media with, by breaking somebody's ankles. He's looking to get open and make a play. So, looking for that increase here. I think Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson is going to be a relationship that works really, really well. The one here, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I know there is some talk. Donovan Peoples-Jones is under contract for next year for about $1 million. So we're probably not going to go that route just yet as far as the future of Donovan Peoples-Jones, because it's going to be more of a 23-game sample for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Hopefully more, guys. With Deshaun Watson. But, even still, for Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6 games to go, he's 407 yards away from a 1,000-yard season. I'm not sure he's going to get there. But you got to think, certainly got a puncher's chance when you're playing with a player like this. For me, the bigger key here, though, it is Anthony Schwartz. It is Robert Woods. It is David Bell. It is Michael Woods. It's about, rounding out that room because, everybody wanted to talk all off season. Are the Browns going to bring in a veteran receiver? Is there a veteran receiver? Will Fuller was a popular name. Kenny Stills was a popular name. I think those guys are probably past their prime as far as being contributors here, but the Browns have to make over a 6-game stretch here some decisions. Do they think David Bell is worthy enough to get 35, 40 targets next year from Deshaun Watson? Do you have, enough faith in Anthony Schwartz that you won't upgrade him with a veteran? For Michael Woods, obviously not a big special teamer, which led to him sitting next week. Is there a spot here where he finds, some time and a way to grow with Deshaun? Deshaun ain't going to care who you are. If you're open, you're going to get the ball. What you do with it is obviously certainly the key here. And, for everybody, I remember years ago, if, nobody truly remembers, it's Vikings, Warren Moon, had Chris Carter, had, a couple other big-time wide receivers. They had a third wide receiver named Jake Reed, and he put up his, they all was sitting for like goals for the year. And Jake Reed was like, 35 for 400. Chris Carter looked at him and said, man, what's wrong with you? We got Warren Moon, dude. He's like, you bet. Jake Reed went out and had like 70 for like 1,000.
Yeah. I remember that, man. Jake Reed was money bags at that time, man. Jake Reed wasn't playing with nobody.
Yeah, Jake Reed never seen a great Warren Moon in his life, so he didn't realize people played like that level. But this is it here. Your expectations, whatever your expectations are, for most of you, could be not enough. The other, it could be, what I'm saying? You could be bagging it because you're bagging it and you don't like the guy, you don't like what he did, you don't like what he was involved in, and I understand all that. But the bar is about as high as it could be. You all love Myles Garrett. You all love position. And things have changed drastically here. And it should translate to a hell of a run here over these final 6 games.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you'll see, man, is I think sometimes when you don't have a situation where you get an opportunity to see whether or not a guy is really good, I think we've forgotten a little bit exactly how good Deshaun Watson is. I think when you miss 2 years, you're out of sight, out of mind. We've seen all the other quarterbacks, and sometimes you just forget how good the guy can actually be. It may take him some time to get to that position or to get to a point where they can see it. But I think what you'll see here on Sunday is you'll get those flash plays. You'll get those flash plays where you say, wow, look at that throw, or wow, look at him escape the pocket and get things done. Wow, let's throw, all those different things you'll see day one. I think moving into week 2 and week 3 is where you'll really start to see it shine. And all I'm trying to do is get the Kool-Aid drinkers to, we just trying to give as much Kool-Aid out as we can. Because I'm going to tell you what, I actually believe, we talked on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today. They said, what's the ultimate goal, or what's the highest level, or what's the most optimistic you can be? What do you think the ceiling is for Deshaun Watson? I said 6-0. I look at their schedule. They're not playing any guys that are that are world beaters, and seem to have the Cincinnati Bengals record, or seem to have their card. The Ravens are a team that they only lost by a couple points. So there's some winnable games on this schedule. And for the most part, I just think I'm just excited to see what the future may hold for the Cleveland Browns, Jeff.
Well, it is 4 road games, which certainly makes for a little bit more difficult route, and that may also be a good thing. Where Deshaun can start to go into some hostile territory and kind of get the understanding of the way it's going to be. It's probably not going to stop anytime soon. I'm sure Deshaun Watson was hounded on the road while he was a quarterback for the Houston Texans. Certainly going to be worse now. But all things, and like I said yesterday, some of this is going to be the mental side. And how strong is Deshaun Watson about basically keeping all that stuff out and just focusing on what his job is as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush. We're going to switch it up here, get a little bit of thoughts here about the tight ends. Where will the running backs be involved in a Deshaun Watson passing attack? Just some thoughts from Garrett and I as we continue through here on your latest Locked On Browns. This episode is that we're sure you're going to love. Find Block Forever now wherever you get your podcast. Block Forever is a brand new podcast from former NFL All-Pro Ryan Khalil and Audible. Greatest players and personalities of all time. You'll hear Christian McCaffrey talk about his love-hate relationship with fantasy football, and Juju Smith-Schuster give his most honest opinions on other players and positions in the league. Ryan and guests discuss topics like the player's psyche, sports betting, playing pain, being a leader, and how to deal with competitive teammates. There is nothing that's going to be out of bounds with this show. Catch the full Block Forever series available where you get your podcast. Available everywhere now. Audible. Get in the game.
Really want to come back to, and we'll get back to this super chat. We'll read this. G Money Uptown says, and we appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. Watson will go 6-0. The offense is too good, which makes team have to pass the ball more with good DBs. We will blow out every team. And our tight end will go off. See, this is the level of Kool-Aid that I'm putting out. Like, this is Harry Buffalo Kool-Aid. Like, this might have alcohol in it. We're handing this out. If you want to partake, just come and watch the Locked On Browns podcast. We'll do that for you, and we'll be handing out free cups of Kool-Aid at every turn. We do want to say thank you for showing up today. Thank you for being a participant in the show. We do want to say also, make sure you check it out and still downloading us on podcast platforms. You can download us everywhere you get your podcast. We'll be there. Obviously, YouTube is winning. We'll put out little things. So far, and I should have did this earlier, but congratulations to being told we went over 350,000 views so far, Jeff. Can you believe it? 350,000 views, not bad. We've been, we plug along here doing our thing, but I think things will pick up here, especially with Deshaun Watson back in the fold and the Cleveland Browns looking like they want to start a little revolution here, start a little winning streak. So we're trying to do that. So we'll continue to do that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell so you know exactly when we're going to go on. Let's talk about the tight ends a little bit here, Jeff. First of all, we talk about, excited about Deshaun Watson because we haven't seen some things at quarterback. But, man, David Njoku, for a lot of people, people were really down on him. People were extremely down on the signing. People were a little apprehensive because they talked about his hands, not being a great blocker in the beginning, asking for a trade, maybe wanting to go to another place. But I tell you what, when that trade, when the signing happened, I think both of us kind of told people that signing was due to who they had coming in. That was a projection of what we feel David Njoku can do when we have a franchise quarterback in the building. And I think what you saw is now David, after the injury, he's starting to take steps, and every single week you're starting to see him unlock some of those things that we've seen glimpses of. The one-handed catch in the back of the end zone with the game on the line. There's only a couple tight ends in the game that could do that. You might see your George Kittles, you might see your Kelce's, Mark Andrews from Baltimore. It's very few guys who you would count on in that spot to throw the ball, and it's fourth down. And if you don't get that, season's over. Right now, it's about a 4 to 7% chance of us making the playoffs. But without that, they're not making that. They're not making the playoffs, and we're not still even talking about the playoffs. But David Njoku's come along, and I think he's going to just be nothing but better with Deshaun Watson. I think they're going to utilize him more. And I'll tell you what, I think that the tight end room will be back in business because I just think Deshaun Watson is going to give them a different look, and I think they'll be open as well. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
The thing with Dave, around 70 for 700. That puts him at about 5 receptions over the next 6 games playing with Deshaun Watson to hit that 70. Keep in mind, there was a little missed time, obviously. Could you even imagine this, though? Could you imagine at any point over the last couple of years said game is on the line and you threw the ball to David Njoku? I mean,
Crazy.
For what everybody kind of feels about, had kind of gotten their licks and kicks in on David Njoku over the years, showed up when the time was there. You found a way where things can be played complementary. And this was the difficulty with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. They didn't want to go out there and do their role and have somebody else get the ball. Facts are facts. They didn't. They wanted every stinking ball thrown their way, and there's nothing worse than a quarterback coming back to the huddle after you've completed a pass and have another wide receiver say, yeah, I was open. I was open. Dude, shut up, man. I got 5 of you to feed. This isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. So, David, look, this is going to be legit. His statistical production, is he ever going to match a Kelce? Probably not. Kelce is the number 1 target of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's literally why they moved on with Tyreek Hill to feature him for a year or two more before, Kelce, starts to, decline a little bit older than, people think, Travis Kelce. Harrison, Brian, we'll see how it works here. Harrison is a tough spot. I think he's not exactly what the Browns are hoping he would be. The receiving game is never parlayed into what they were hoping he would be. Certainly going to have their eyes. I said a million times they should have been looking at the tight end market last year when it was a ridiculous class. Oh, by the way, Jelani Woods last night, if y'all watched, there was a guy I stood in my chair and tried to scream for almost every round before he was finally selected. You need to, get more involvement here. Obviously Harrison Bryant's going to get a chance over a couple games, but the tricky part to figure out here is where exactly, and this really hasn't been a big factor this year to begin with. And they've kind of moved away from it a little bit, which takes away certainly the appeal and the production and what you get from a guy like Kareem Hunt is, where do the running backs equate or factor into this passing game going in the future with Deshaun Watson? Because it already looks like it was kind of sizzling out to begin with.
Yeah, the running back game, look, they got Nick Chubb about, I wouldn't say over 20 carries, which worked out, but there was overtime involved in that. And it looks like Kareem Hunt has been, phased out of the game plan. I'm wondering what type of game plan it's going to be now that you have Deshaun Watson. Will you see more Kareem Hunt slotted out? Will you see more of the screen game? But we have seen, the wide receiver screens a little bit towards tight ends. How would all of these things change? I think that's one of the big question marks that we have. And what would this run pass look be? I think there's a lot of people that will say, hey, we was wanting Nick Chubb before for 25 carries. I don't think they'll complain too many times if they see Deshaun Watson throwing his fair share of the football down the field. Nick, we definitely want to see you still get the rock. However, we still want to see what Deshaun Watson is talking about here as well. We got maybe one question that kind of ties into that, Jeff, and I'll let you have the first bite at it. Buck says, any regret not trading Kareem Hunt, not himself this year? Want to see Ford burst to spark run game. What are your thoughts on Kareem Ford? Or mixed it to Kareem Ford. That's a really good running back. What are your thoughts about Jerome Ford getting an opportunity? We've seen him on the kickoff game. And do you think you could possibly see more than him than Kareem Hunt moving forward?
The thing with Kareem, and Kareem always hasn't had the greatest vision. Obviously, he makes up for it with his physicality. But the thing I think I noticed the most with Kareem is it looks like a little more lack of speed. It just doesn't seem like he's as fast as he was. The Browns were hoping to get a top 100 pick for him. They didn't, so they weren't going to move him. It was a tough spot. We all know that relationship is pretty much over, as much as it hurts, because I think everybody loves Kareem. Everybody loves that Nick and Kareem are tight. But financially, it don't make no sense. Jerome Ford, I would say, there's been about 4 games, if not 5 games this year, where he's had a really solid kick return. And to be able to run like that in that chaos with kick return, you certainly want to see some in down reps. You want to see that happen for him. And for me right now, I mean, the pecking order, I'd probably give Jerome Ford a couple of carries over Kareem Hunt. Dearness Johnson isn't playing. Demetric Felton, is often the, basically the odd man out everywhere, the wide receiver room and the running back room. It's certainly time to get Jerome Ford involved here, because you're going to lose 2 running backs. Most likely, Demetric Felton is not going to be on this roster last year. You've got to understand where you are with Jerome Ford. And, do you think Jerome Ford is a good enough player that he could be one snap away from being your starting running back?
I think that we'll see a lot more of him. One more time, we got another super chat. David, let's see. G Money Uptown says, and we appreciate the super chat. David will be Kelsey Kittle level. Kelsey Kittle level. Watson has never played with an offense like this. Excited as an understatement. He performed elite without a running game. Thank you so much for that. So, I think in conclusion, I think there's a lot of things that you can look for that we haven't even dug into, just the surface level of what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. We talked about 3 things here, pretty much how we talked about, the wide receivers, how that'll affect the game, the tight end position, where they still continue to find that end zone and find the rapport there. And then the running backs, how does the running back position change? Will you see more of Kareem Hunt? Will you see more of the screen game? And how will that affect the way the Cleveland Browns attack defenses with their running game? Jeff, your thoughts before you take us home?
It's, there's a lot to it. There really is. I mean, you like what's here. You love this talent's here. You certainly got to see the way it plays with Deshaun Watson. I know you guys seem still excited about Kareem Hunt. It's 3.9 yards per carry behind one of the better offensive lines in the NFL as far as run blocking is concerned. I see a guy who's closer to out than he is certainly closer to in. Let's just leave it at that. Let me just get this in here. Another super chat. Pretty sure Watson will enhance the offense, but will he be able to come over some of the games the defense just doesn't show up at all? That's the point. You're supposed to think he is able to do that, guys. We appreciate y'all for being here today. Obviously, this is a historical week leading up to, hopefully, which will be the Cleveland Browns walk into Houston and beat the Texans down. Because if this game is a nail-biter, it's close by any means whatsoever. You're all going to be here with myself, G, Mike, and, of course, Bull. And everybody's going to be like, oh, no, here we go. But I think the Browns are going to walk in. We got obviously a bunch more. I think they're going to show extremely well on Sunday. I think he's going to be, you're almost going to have to put him back into the bottle, so to speak, is how fired up Deshaun Watson is going to be. We appreciate everybody who takes the time for us every day here at Locked On Browns. On behalf of Garrett Bush, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, of course, pregame, postgame coverage, Buckeyes, Browns, Cavaliers, and Cleveland Guardians, at GBush91. Make sure you follow over there. And myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show at Locked On Browns. Again, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you subscribe to following the Locked On Browns podcast on YouTube. Subscribe. Notifications on. Hit that like button as much as you can for us, guys. We do appreciate that. And if you got Roku, go ahead. Check the Roku app. Put in Locked On Cleveland Sports. You will find Locked On Browns, Locked On Guardians, Locked On Cavaliers, and, of course, the crew at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Deshaun Watson is back. Buckle up. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go, Browns.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.